What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Ponytails Podcast, Season 8, Episode 2. And we have the Golden Trifecta today. I'm so excited. Before we introduce our guests, I want to tell you a little bit about our show. If this is your first episode, welcome. If this isn't, well, thanks for being back. I'm glad that you made it back for another episode. But if this is your first time, we interview people who sold books with a company called Southwestern Advantage that was founded in 1868. And since then, they recruit college kids to go door to door for 80 hours a week on straight commission to try to pay for college during their summers in school. So we go and find these people. There's supposed to be about 100,000 of them that have done this program, and it's one of the hardest internships in the world. And we interview them and see what they're up to now. Some people have come and told some incredible stories about inspiration and motivation. Sometimes we've had some hilarious stories about what crazy things happen when people go to door to door, and everything in between. Our guests today are no different. A couple of them have already been on the show before, but we love them so much we had to get them back here, and you might recognize the names. First up, we got Pat Roach, who is with Southwestern Real Estate. He sold for 6 summers, and he was part of the OG Winning Tradition organization. In fact, all 3 of our guests were part of that organization. He sold from 1993 to 99, went to Wheaton College. Clinton, Wisconsin is where he calls home, and he's currently living in Chicago. And his favorite squirrel is number 2. I will greet this day with love in my heart. Number 2 is Todd McWhirter. He's also on. You guys can go check out his episode 2 from last year. He sold for 8 summers, part of the OG Winning Tradition. And he sold in the late 80s and early 90s as well. Went to the University of Tennessee in Knoxville and Wheaton College. Currently is in Denver, and that is what he calls home. Also, number 2, I will greet this day with love in my heart fan. And last but not least, first time on the show, Jake Chesney, who sold for 7 summers, part of the Winning Tradition as well with Craig Soder. Sold from 1994 to 2000. Wheaton College as well. Aurora, Illinois is what he calls home, and his favorite squirrel is also number 2. I will greet this day with love in my heart. I am your host, Andres Gamboa, and when I come back, we will be on with the Golden Trifecta. Hello, gentlemen. We're already laughing. What are we doing?
Already got the laugh going, eh? Love it.
Do you think I can get these 4 done during this episode? I have 4 of these.
Easy. That's like
done.
That's like Kool-Aid. I mean, what are those, like 5.1 or something?
It's not even. It's 4.7. It's.
Come on.
I need to pace myself. I record like 8 of these a week sometimes, so it's just like you can't. The liver can only take so much.
And I will attest from an earlier podcast with you today that you cracked that first one at 11.
Yeah, I have like this is cans in here. Now we're not sponsored by Topo Chico, but we can be.
Yeah, that's right.
If you're listening, Topo Chico. All right. Well, welcome, gentlemen. I'm so excited to have this. We've been trying to get this done since like October, but it came at a great time. I want to dig into a little bit of Jake's past just because we've heard a little bit about Pat and Todd, of course, during your episodes. We can I'm sure we're going to hear about how you guys highlight in Jake's story as we go along. But Jake, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here first time. Whoop, whoop. And normally we start with, let's just wind the clocks back. We'd love always to hear about people's origin story, about how they first got recruited into Southwestern and kind of the whirlwind of a story that goes into that. How'd your parents reacted? How did you feel about sales school? All that jazz. So if we could, maybe we could start there, wind the clocks back. Tell us about the first time you heard about Southwestern and where Pat and Todd came into your story, if you could take it away.
Yeah, for sure. So Pat comes into the story because he was friends with my who is now my wife. So he was friends with her before I was. And wow. She had heard about him doing the crazy thing, whatever it is, and didn't think much about it. But then after the summer, Pat said, Jake, because she was friends with me, we weren't dating. But he thought I should do it. And actually, I could have been on Pat's team. I could have been on a lot of people's team because at Wheaton College, I was pretty much acquaintances or friends with everybody there that was selling, about 12 of them or so. So anyways, I ended up on this guy Will's team, which is kind of interesting because Will had gone on a date with my current wife. Todd has been on a date with my current wife. Pat, only reason he wasn't is because he was dating my wife's roommate. But anyway, small school, everybody knows each other, and I got placed on Will's team, and Will Arthur was my student leader. Todd, I didn't meet Todd till I got to the state where we were selling, and he was our OL for a while. Or no, I met him in sales school, I guess. Yeah. So that was my introduction to Todd. Didn't know he'd be friends for the next 30 years and business partners for the next 30 years. So yeah, that's my intro. I didn't parents. I was a senior and pretty independent. My parents didn't really have much to do with it, even though they're very involved parents. They figured Wheaton College, if those guys are doing it, must be okay.
So has Pat always been like Pat? Like, has he always been like the funny, silly, like broken TV in the background? Has he always been?
Boy, the answer to that lies in Jennifer Wolf. That's her maiden name. She totally Pat has remained the same, but a lot of edges have been roughed out over the years. That's my guess, anyways. And Jennifer had a lot to do with that.
That's epic.
Wait a second. I have to interject because, all right, you know how when you're a student manager, right? So I'm a B contract, and every potential recruit is like a pretty big deal, you know, especially when you're not doing anything that you're supposed to do to actually build a team. And somebody trips over, you know, the idea of selling books, and it's like, oh, I wanted to collect that. I'm in Betsy's apartment at Wheaton College, and Jake's there because they were newly dating. And he says to me, hey, you do that summer thing with Southwestern, right? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, are you doing it again? I'm like, yeah. He goes, because I'm kind of interested. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Jake, we should talk about it. I'm thinking, this is like the gimme of all time. And he goes, okay, great. Yeah, let's talk about it. Well, he circles back with me a few days later. He's like, well, this other guy, Will Arthur, kind of already told me about it, so I just signed up with him. And I'm thinking, what? You signed up with Will? Oh my gosh, dude, come on. And
then he didn't even sell that many units.
Yeah, and then he's a legend in the business.
Well, just so you have it clear in your mind, I got just a little tweak on it. So I decided, you know what? I know Jason, who is the OL. So I called I knew Will, I knew Pat, but I knew Jason best. So I called Jason. He had actually called me the year before, and I took the call, and I said I was already planning plans. So I honored that, I guess, because I called him. He did my info session, one-on-one notebook, and then all of a sudden I find out I'm on Will's team. So he gave me away to Will. That's what I remember.
What a loser!
All I remember is that I'm the one who recruited Jason. So I got a grandkid came out of this, and a great grandkid came out of this. So I'm kind of digging it.
Yeah,
Todd made money either way.
Jason Krebs really is responsible for me and Jake.
Yeah,
I love that. Isn't that cool in the Southwestern culture that I love this part about it, where there is an opportunity to make a good friends with someone who, like, to develop a really solid friendship, even though you are professionally aligned. Like Todd, like, you know, like you're saying, hey, I made money from this. It was great, right? But that's really not as important. That money you could have spent on Cheetos, right? Now, 30 years later, you have this really sweet friendship. I feel like that's not as common in other companies, but the culture of Southwestern kind of builds on that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Fraternal part of it for sure. The
builds.
Yep. We all sat on a curb and cussed whoever got us into the business and swore we'd never do it again, and then somehow kept doing it again.
Yeah. Some mom just laid it on you, and it was a Tuesday in the rain. Oh, brutal.
Broke out in tears in front of a customer. We've all done it.
We're really going there that fast.
We all had shitty HQs. You know what I'm saying? Where you're like, you look back now, you're like, what? Who let us live there? Like, oh, good stuff. Where did you go that summer, Jake?
Western Iowa, kind of near Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh, so not quite the promised land, but right before. Oof.
Yeah, cornfields. Yeah, rural.
Listen,
it was good.
That was my last. That was my last was a half summer of mine, and I had my little sister out to segue into my last podcast with you guys. We were in Yankton, South Dakota, and she would drive over the bridge and sell in Nebraska.
That's some good territory. As
Didn't
a Husker,
didn't you follow Amy?
Yeah. I followed you, my roommate, Darrell. He followed
Amy.
He followed Amy.
So fun.
Oh, Todd, I followed you up there in South Dakota, and you want to hear something that's really crazy? Or the Nebraska-South Dakota connection? I just found out like 3 years ago that when my relatives came from Europe, they settled in South Dakota right there. And my grandpa with his brothers would, as they're like, 20-year-olds or whatever, they would drive over into Nebraska to fight at bars for money. Like it was like a show thing. Like they'd go in, and it was where we sold books, where I followed you for that day.
In Yankton.
Yeah, they would go there. That was the biggest town in the area. They would go there and they would fight at bars for money. And I was like, I sold books there. And that's the exact territory where my family relatives from the past settled.
You're telling me that place had Roach, blood, sweat, and tears? All
maybe not Roach, but the other side of the family, it had that.
That's awesome.
That's epic. Now, I did want to ask you guys, and we can get into this, and this will bring up some memories too, as well, I hope, and interject wherever you guys feel like it. But, one of the things that I thought was really special about having you guys back on was that you guys had kids that sold this last summer. And I don't know if many people know that, but if you could share a little bit about, I know Pat, I don't know if Todd, you did this too, but Pat, you went up and helped your daughter deliver. And so you went back to the field, years later. Could you share a little bit about what that experience was like, some of the differences that you noticed, and maybe some of the things that came back to you? They're like, this has been the same since the Civil War.
Yeah, well, I would say this. So there's a guy, Barrett Ward, who has not been on the show yet, but he'd be a great guy.
Amy, write that down.
Yeah, Barrett's one of my best friends, and we, we were never in the same org, but we were always buddies at Southwestern functions. And then we both became sales managers, and then our territory overlapped, so we did a lot of training together and whatnot. And he's in Nashville. And my daughter goes to school in Nashville, so she has become friends with Barrett and his family and everything. And he was a big part in tipping the scales for her to go, okay, if I decide to sell books, it's not stupid. It's not like just my dad's thing. There's a reason people do this. And so halfway through the summer, Barrett flew up to Chicago, and we drove to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and did a Sunday meeting halfway through the summer. And it was beautiful in the sense that it was like, it was a little disjointed. People weren't showing up when they were supposed to. It was kind of like, we're talking to the student managers, and all the first years are kind of milling about, and they all look like they're depressed. And then you go talk to the first years and all the whole group, and it kind of comes off in the end. And then there's recognition, and and then you're eating Jimmy John's at a park, and it's like, wow, this is what we did. And then we played volleyball there for a little while, and then everybody had to go home. And it was like, but what was cool about it is it was kind of like the way that hadn't changed, and the way that you would leave a meeting like that, going back to your headquarters, going, okay, now I can get my head focused. I can actually do this thing for another week. I can actually try to do better. I can be like, there was enough juice there to inch people along. And I thought it was pretty cool. And it was actually, Barrett has been a pretty neg for a long time about just dealing with his Southwestern experience. And I think it actually was very healing for him to be able to see kids doing this and going, I see the good in what is happening in them while they're doing this. It was significant.
I made it up to my kids' summer as well this summer.
Where was your kid selling?
So my daughter Ellie was in Pennsylvania, and Tammy and I drove up there and did a Sunday meeting, kind of little talk, and same thing, Pat. It was like watching the whole group gather at a park, and we did a talk, and they were excited and watched them do their execs and all that stuff. Yeah, it doesn't really change. And then Ethan didn't really want me to come up, really, but I called him when I was there. He was in upstate New York, and I said, "Hey, Ethan, like I won't come to your Sunday meeting because Sunday's almost over, but how about I come up and shadow you for a part of a day?" And I said, "No pressure. You know, I don't, might help, might not help. I don't think it could hurt, whatever." And he thought about it for a minute and goes, "Yeah, I guess it couldn't hurt."
Oh, nice.
So I went up there and watched him, and yeah, we did a few little adjustments, and he was able to. He ended up. I mean, I'm not taking any credit. The guy worked his butt off, but he ended up having a great last 4 weeks, and pushed ahead of his first summer quite a bit. But it was that guy can work his butt off, and obviously Ellie did well too. So it was fun, but I got to see them both in the summer. Yeah. He needed to clean his car a little bit, but
don't we all?
I still throw crap behind my driver's seat like it doesn't exist. And it's like my car just fills up.
Empty water bottles, like empty plastic water bottles, just like
chuck it. File it.
But what's awesome is we had not just our, I had my son out there who's going on his second summer, had a great second summer, but my daughter, her first summer, and then Jake's daughter, Pat's daughter, so we had 3 daughters out there. I mean, just quite fun. And I remember Ellie didn't know really who Ella was. They met a while back, I think at GRS, Jake, when you invited us up when they were in high school. But yeah, we'll get into the competition here in a minute, but I'm looking forward to that.
I'm sure. So and Jake, Todd was saying, so your daughter also sold, but you also
so my son sold first.
Okay, yeah.
And
okay.
my son did it right out of high school. Wow. Yeah, he did it right out of high school, and then my daughter also did it out of high school, and then my youngest son is a sophomore, planning to do the same. So I'm really lucky they all kind of want to do it. I'm in a different situation. It'd be a whole maybe podcast in itself. But I left for 17 years, and then I came back to Southwestern 5 years ago. So me following them on the book field is like my job to follow them, and especially at the stage I was at when I was building my business and they're out there. So I actually got a chance to see my kids on like their second day or their third day. And
wow,
that was really emotional. I'll tell you. My son, I still remember like he actually had a customer, and I took a picture with me and him and the customer. It was like his second or third day, and then actually for him, I think it was his second week. Actually, I think it was his second week. My daughter, on the other hand, I wasn't sure. We have this iPad tablet like sales rabbit thing where we can see like what's going on. And sometimes it would glitch and it would just sit there, but I didn't know that. So I was looking on hers, like her first couple of days, and it was just like one day it was just sitting in a parking lot. And I thought, oh, good. I didn't know what to do. And I was texting her and I would Facebook message her. Like, everything okay? What's going on? I was like, she's off track already. Oh my gosh. I was so nervous. And then when I told her about it, she like got super mad at me, like, I would never do that, and just and she's completely unemotional anyway. So it was funny. But when I did see her second day in person, to follow her, like she literally looked at me and she just started crying, and I was just like holding back not to cry with her because I was like, I know how she felt, and it was just special because then she got out, went to the next door, and she figured it out. But, yeah, that was kind of a special moment for me.
Well, and let me ask you guys this, because I'm not a dad, right? And so I look up to you guys a lot for just raising children that feet alone, raising children who aren't criminals. Good job, guys. Way to go. But because Wow, we've seen the Dahmer documentary at this point, and the vital role parenting takes. But so my brother, you guys know Danny. I think all of you guys know Danny relatively well. And I dropped him off at his first HQ. Now I'm the oldest brother, right? We are immigrants. We moved here. I'm looking out for this kid growing up. Anybody want to mess with my brother, they got to mess with me. I was like that, bro, right? And so this is the only like relative relationship I have to this feeling of I had to drop him off. Now he also sold right out of high school, and he was young for his age. He graduated early, so he was 17 when I dropped him off at his first house. He was selling to kids sometimes who were older than him, which is really funny, in high school, right? And I remember the feeling of that protectiveness, which I can't imagine what it's like as fathers, right? Of like, I know what I just dropped him off to go experience. Like, I know he's going to experience maybe some of life's highest highs, like that first customer when you're like, oh my God, the sales talk works, right? Or to like the lowest lows, like we were talking about the corner, and we joke about it, sitting at the corner on a Tuesday, right? Hating the person that recruited you. I was that guy. And
So
so
Wednesday.
And a Wednesday, right. Oh, sure. Yeah, of course. Silly schmuck that I am. We too. And it hurt. Like it was a visceral, like I remember driving away going, I can't protect him anymore, you know, as a brother. So for you, gentlemen, when your child that you've been trying to protect from this world, you know, growing up, what's that like to when they say, hey, I want to go try this? What was that feeling like? Was there a part of you that was like, no, or were you all about it? Can you guys walk me through it? I guess we can start with Pat and go around, but I wanted to ask about this because I remember that feeling, and that was just my brother. I can't imagine a kid, you know?
Yeah. So Ella told me many times, like, well, in various ways, but one time really specifically, Dad, don't talk to me about Southwestern. I'm never going to do that. And so I was kind of like, I guess the dream's over. Because I mean, I felt like as I sold books, I was like, I hope my kids do this someday. Like, this is a thing that makes a person, right? Or, you know, it's a vehicle. It was
it's a great vehicle for that. Yeah.
It's what I knew. So I was like, man, I'd just like to know that I could raise a kid who could deal with this. You know, there's something about that. And so, you know, so anyway, so she goes and she's like, never going to do it. I was doing a speech at GRS, I guess last year. That's probably the way that worked out. And she goes to school in Nashville. So I'm like, why don't you just come sit in the background, you know, and listen to my talk? I'm doing a new speech. I've never given it before. I think it's worth listening to. And so she showed up, and then she bumped into Emma Barnett. And Emma Barnett,
of all people, great,
is the sister of Sarah Jane Barnett, who was in my group when I was a sales manager. And Emma just walks right up to her. They start chatting, you know, whatever. They get coffee the next day. She is thinking about selling books for a while. And I just kept thinking in my heart, I don't get to play a role in this, unfortunately. Like, anytime I would put in 2 cents, she would push back 4 cents. Like, it's just, there's no role for me to be the recruiter sales manager type with my own kid. I don't know how Jake does it, because his kids seem to be drawn to it. My kids are like, that's stupid, you know? And so as she eventually came around to decide to do it, I was so happy. But I got to tell you this. She does her first week, and then the Monday of her second week is Memorial Day. And she calls, like, you know, we're not even out of bed. So it's like, I don't know, early. And she's crying, and she's like, I can't be alone like this all summer. Like, I don't mind knocking on doors, but I've been alone all semester, and I can't be alone all. And I'm just listening to her, and she's crying, and I'm thinking, and she goes, I don't even care about knocking on doors. And I'm like, yeah, but that's what people say when they want to quit. And so I'm like managing my own sales manager instincts with hearing my daughter do this. And I'm telling you, the longer she went on, I was like this close to going, just come home. Just come home. It's fine.
Wow.
Craig Soder used to say, hey, if somebody quits within the first 2 weeks, there probably wasn't that much you could have done to actually help them be successful. Like if they don't intrinsically have the first 2 weeks built into them, then it's probably not going to work out. And so that kept echoing in my head. Now I don't know if that's true, because whatever. But my wife geniusly said, well, Ella, why don't you just call Barrett and just talk to him about it? Like, he's somebody that knows the book field, and he's not us. And she called Barrett, and like a couple hours go by, and I'm like, have you checked on Ella lately? And we're like, find my friends. We're like, she's at a house. She's at a house. Yeah. And it was kind of one of those moments where I was like, and then she had like a 50 unit day, and it was like, it all kind of started to work. And when I went to deliver books with her at the end of the summer, I was like, hey, when you go back to that day and you think about now you're delivering books, like, what do you make of that? And she said, at some point you just have to commit, because in the end, this is let me see if I can say it right, the fastest, longest summer of your life. I mean, it's like it goes by like that, even though as you're experiencing it, it feels forever. But you just have to commit, and then it's, you're in it, and it is what it is. And I just thought, okay, this girl just had that experience. She just grew up like a ton in that summer. But I mean, I'm telling you, it didn't take much for me to fold as a parent, where I would have just said, I guess it's not going to happen,
Wow.
So I just was confirmed. You can't, I didn't find myself able to be a sales manager and a parent. I wanted to just do the sales manager thing, and it just wasn't going to happen. So,
well, Jake,
Hey,
how do you
Pat,
do it?
Didn't Ella work in the office the year before also
yeah.
in Southwestern? So she had a lot of exposure, but it was coming to GRS and meeting Emma that changed. It was a little different than working in the office, huh?
Because nobody ever presented the program. She just, every kid at checkout or every kid who's coming through the company is kind of like, oh, you're Pat Roach's daughter. You should sell books. You want to be on my team? Like, give me the easy recruit, right? And it's like, she's like, this is stupid. So
yeah. Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I know I am. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the people that make this show possible, the people that bring this show to you. These are people who all sold books, and we're here to give a quick shout out to them in a spotlight about their company and what they're up to. So if you're interested, or if after listening to this, you're kind of wanting to know a little bit more, feel free to click on the links below to connect with these people. These are from an excerpt I have with them from a podcast that I do on the side. It's called Executive Exercises, where we take all our sponsors and they come into a think tank and share some awesome ideas about how to grow their business, specifically on different topics. Go check that out. But I pulled some of the comments that they had explaining what they do and who they're looking for on their companies. And so if that sounds like you, like I said, click below. Hope you enjoy. So yeah. And so money wise, and it just seemed like it was going to be the leads, which I wanted to go back to that because you mentioned this, and that's another thing that maybe Southwestern people don't understand is leads. That's kind of like you're saying, basically, imagine you show up to a town to sell books, you send a postcard out to every single family that has kids in school or young children, asking them if they struggle with any of the following subjects, yes or no. Would you be interested in hearing about a product that might help you with all those subjects, yes or no, name and address, and then you just waited at your HQ for like a couple of weeks, and then you got in the mail like 700 people returning that postcard saying, come to my house, here's where I live. Hi, are you the mom of the house? Yes, and you've heard of you. Great.
Yeah, is this your handwriting, Miss Betty? Yeah, that's my handwriting.
Yeah.
You got a few minutes? It's, again, you're not selling every single lead that you sit down with, but the leads is kind of what interested me, because that kind of anxiety feeling that I talked about at Southwestern and the anxiety I had with Family Heritage, I honestly didn't think that was going to go away, but it has. It's gone away when I sold. I still had a little bit of anxiety, but after that first knock, it goes away. But much less anxiety every week, because I know I have fresh leads coming in. And so even if this day doesn't work out, I know I got typically our agents will get anywhere from 25 to 50 leads a week of people that they can go and call on.
I want people to understand what it is that you do, how you do it, why you do it, all of the good stuff. You hear a lot about coaching. You hear a lot about life coach, sales coach, business coach, yada, yada coach.
Man, I think just to start off, like what it isn't, it's not training. It's not showing up and having somebody talk at you for 45 minutes to an hour. And like the way that I look at it is we're all human beings. We're all broken in some capacity. And we all know a lot of the people that I work with, they know what they're supposed to be doing. They're just not executing on it, or they're not doing it as intentionally as they should be. Or they're just not focused. They have like 15 different goals or 15 different things that they're trying to balance or do. And because of that, like they're not as intentional as they should be at home, or they're not as intentional as they should be at work, and they're not picking up the phone and calling people. And it's like having a personal trainer for your business. It's having intention on why we do what we do every day, and creating clarity and helping to build our lives and our calendars around what our future goals and intentions are.
That'll do for now. Like I said, make sure you click below to get some more information. And now back to the show. And which is interesting because the way I recruited Danny was GRS. I'd be like, you want to come do this? And he's like, I don't know. I flew him out to Nashville. He was a GRS. He was like, oh yeah, I want to do this. And then he didn't memorize his sales talk until the drive to Nashville. So, but that was the only training we ever did was GRS. Much success.
Well,
but Jake, how do you
kind of ties in when I was, I was just going to say on that note, Todd, we were on a hike in Colorado, Todd and I, and he was like, man, your daughter's going to do this too now? Like, what do you do? Like, get your kids to want to sell books? Because he kind of wanted his kids. And I said, the only secret I can think of is bring them to GRS. And don't worry if they sell this summer. Like, get them early to GRS. My kids went to GRS as sophomores, as juniors. They went to awards banquets. And then it just kind of came like, of course they want to do whatever that is. And so Todd did that. He brought his twins to GRS, and they didn't sell. But then the next year one did, and the next year someone else. If I remember right, my summers are right.
Yeah, that's right.
They came to GRS, I guess seniors in high school, and then a year later, one of them sold, and then the year after that, the other did. So, yeah, I think GRS is
that Dan Morrow Life 101, man. It just does something to you. I need to get to Nashville to go see that, but I'm going to be in Columbia, unfortunately.
Hey, you guys know who's coming to GRS this year? You guys would know the whole Steve Herlihy family.
Oh, nice. I love Steve.
And they live in Atlanta. So Steve and his 4 kids Steve, his wife, and 3 of his kids will all be there at the table for the same reason. It's the same thing. It's just like trying, because he has a deal with his kids and he's told me this multiple times, because he's had 2 or 3 kids that went through college, never sold books, and he wishes they had. And he still wishes the rest will. He tells all of them, if you sell books, I don't care how much money you make, whatever you do make, I'm going to double it at the end of the summer. And he says,
he talked about that on his episode.
He said, I'll double it. Oh, yeah, he was on an episode?
Yeah, he was on. Yeah. We love Steve.
Okay.
Yeah, Steve's great.
Yeah, and he said he'll take that money though that you doubled. Like say you make 10,000, he'll give you an extra 10. You only get 5 of it. The other 5 is after your second summer. That's when you get the other 5. So now you have to do both summers. That's kind of his passion for doing it.
He's also awesome. A big Atlanta FC fan, and because of him, we're like, we should throw an alumni reunion party bought by us, because he's got so many connections with book people down there. He's a stud. Big shout out to Steve if you're listening, buddy. We love you.
That's awesome.
Our first, we've had our alumni stuff in like years ago, but we had our first official annual party here for alumni, and we're going to do it like twice a year now. We got it organized, and Steve was part of making that happen. We had like 30 people there.
What inspired that? Anyway, so how was it like having your kids? Was it Jake, on a serious note? Because now you're actually kind of in a way nobody's your boss in Southwestern, but you know what I mean? Like you're their like DSL for your kids. So it's not like, even like Pat was saying, where it's like a little different, right? It's how did you handle that balance?
Oh yeah, it was really interesting because when my oldest sold, I was only on my second summer, so to speak, because coming back. So I didn't really have much of a group. So I had to build personal team. So my son was on my personal team, and it was a good team. Him and a couple of his friends, and there's like 7 of them, and they were the number 2 team. So they did well, and he was part of that. And but I was his student manager, not just his sales manager, which was kind of cool because I was his little league coach, and I coached him through us all. We had a kind of pretty good relationship in terms of like coaching our whole life, so that was kind of a natural actually. And he chose, and this is different. Everybody's different. He wanted me to be his stat call at night, and I was his stat call the entire summer.
Wow.
I do every night for throughout the whole summer, and he was on track to probably be top 10, and then he kind of had an event that ended his 3 weeks early. He kind of lost everything, but he had a good summer. He was a top first year and won Sizzler and all that. And then my daughter knew that he had done that, and so she wanted me to be her stat call every night all summer, her first summer too. So even though I was a couple years later, so that was kind of different, talking to him every night.
Was it hard, like especially after they had a tough day? Was it like difficult to just be like, all right, just shake it off, bro? Like that protective instinct? How did you like? I couldn't do it personally. So how did you? That's so tough, man.
Yeah, well, my nephew did Southwestern before them, and he just finished his 7th and final summer. So I kind of been doing stuff with him too, like not as consistently, but yeah, just kind of used to just treating them all the same, I guess, letting them puke. I try to give them some other people to talk to too. But yeah, and my daughter wanted to talk to me and her stat calls, so she had 2 stat calls every night. So yeah, I don't know. It wasn't too many. There was never a quit moment for my kids that I can think of. I mean, like I said, she cried that one time, but I don't think they ever got to that point.
Wow. That's hats off to you, Metscher, because that's a tough thing to do. Todd, what about you? What was it like to send your kids out? Just be like, all right, good luck. Get gun pointed to your face and the mom yelling at your house, yelling at you to get off the fucking porch or whatever.
Yeah, a couple of fun stories. When Ethan decided to go out, he got interviewed, and and I was trying, he was ready to go, and he knew that I was hoping he would do this, so it was pretty obvious. I used to go do meetings with different schools. When they came out here, all the Romanian kids would come here, and I'd have Sunday meetings, and I'd get invited. So they knew all about the book business. They kind of not secretly, they knew I was hoping they would do it. So when Ethan decided to do it, I really wanted to make sure, like, take pressure off him that, hey, it's okay if you don't like, it's totally like, I love you either way. You don't do it. And I was kind of giving him that little talk, and he was like, hey, Dad, I don't mean to hurt your feelings, but I'm not doing this for you. And I was like,
wow.
And he was like, ouch, in a minute. And then I thought about it. I was like, actually, that is the best thing I could have ever heard, because if you're doing it for me, it wouldn't work anyway. So that was good news. And then when Ellie went interviewed, it was funny. I guess Aisha and Danny have a system where they really interview you, where it's like, I don't know if you qualify, very, very much. And so Ellie calls me and is like, they're saying I might not qualify, Dad. I'm like,
Ellie, going to take it.
Just part of that. If you want to do it, you can do it. Don't worry. You're going to qualify. I'm not sure if I qualify. Anyway, it was just kind of got a kick out of that. But she was excited. I think this was one of her bucket list type things. Not sure if she'll go again, but here's something really funny. So I was a stress case my first summer, lots of pressure on myself. And my OL, his name is Steve Burgess, who lives up in upstate New York and saw Ethan this summer, by the way. But Steve Burgess would tell me at the end of the Sunday meeting, because I was just like all, just uptight and just worried, be like, Todd, go get a milkshake and unwind. I'd be like, yes, sir. Yes. I'd go get a milkshake, and I would, very teachable. So I'd go get a milkshake and unwind. And I did that every Sunday. And so I told Ellie this story when she was all kind of nervous. And this is what she sent me. This is so great. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but that girl was so teachable. Let's see if I can do this.
If you can send me a screenshot and I can put it up on the screen.
Oh, that's it. You can see it.
Oh yeah, there you go. She got a milkshake.
Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
and it was like, I mean, I've got so many pictures of the milkshake. I'll just keep. There's another one.
Did she get one every Sunday?
Every Sunday, like,
That's
yeah,
cool.
it was such a. I'll do one last one just to.
This is great. I love this. Is so funny.
I mean, so every week she'd send me a picture of her with her milkshake, and it was just so funny. And she's like her old man. She doesn't respond to pressure. So third week, so she was doing really well, and so she was on this call with Mark Rao, and Mark Rao, as we know, we all love Mark Rao, but Mark Rao's like hardcore, like he's old school, like. Is that all you did? Do it better next time, and she just did not respond well to that kind of old school approach. And so she would call me, and she called me a lot, and she'd be like, "Oh, he's not helping. It's making me feel pressure and all this stuff." I said, "Ellie, you're a 1099. You're not a W-2. You don't have to do anything. This is your business." "You mean I don't have to do it?" "No, you don't." And she goes, "Okay," so she just deleted it and like didn't go on the Mark Rao call. And nothing personal, Mark, but it's just her personality. So she just started jamming after she learned how to take pressure off of herself. Gotten better and better. It's kind of anyway.
That is,
dude. Wait a second. I gotta say something. I'm just remembering now. So Ella calls us at the end of like the first week. It's like Friday night at like 5 o'clock, and she's exhausted, right? Working the schedule. And she calls, she's like, "I'm just so tired. I just can't like keep going." And I'm like, "All right, listen, I've done this a bunch of times. I know what you need to do. What do I need to do? All right, you're in town. I can see where you are. Find a parking lot, okay, and set a timer for 25 minutes and just take a nap." And just trust me. Don't tell anybody that I told you this. Just do it and just take a power nap, and that'll get you through for the rest of the night. And listen, you're supposed to work the schedule, but you got to be smart about it. And if your body's telling you you need a little, like, jolt of, "I need to take a nap," then just do it. It's fine.
Coach Roach.
And I'm thinking, I can't believe that I'm telling a first year on her first week, go take a nap and set an alarm and get back to her.
Hey, that reminds me, one time Pat coached me on a call like that. And so I gotta give context. So I sold for 7 summers, but they weren't for 7 full summers. I took a long nap my 7th summer because I sold for 3 weeks, and I was like, I'm a DSL. I don't want to sell anymore, and I don't want to call Craig Soder and ask him if I can stop selling. So I called Pat, who's not selling for the first time, and he's a DSL in the office, and I committed to selling, and I said, "Pat, I know I committed, but can I decommit?" Because his response was, "I can't believe you're even done what you've done." Yeah, I would stop right now. So I got to experience what it's like to be an early leaver my 7th summer.
Is that
and then my wife would come home from work and ask me why I'm home.
Is that what they call early champion? Is that what that is?
Yeah, I was an early champion DSL. That's my 6th
that's
summer.
funny.
Yeah.
Well,
Now-
that happened a lot where people would come follow me, and like I'd be cranking it for a while and just like crushing, and then all of a sudden it would go dry. And if they were my friends, I'd be like, screw it, let's go to the bar. And then we'd go to the bar and then just like hang out for an hour, and then I'd be like, "All right, you can go get back to your territory, and I'm just gonna call it a day." when I went up and delivered books with Ella, we delivered books for so long. Andres, I sent you a couple of.
Yeah, I saw that. I got you.
We got to a certain point in the day. I'm like, look at these little country bars. Like, these are like rural Wisconsin bars. These are priceless. And I'm like, we're done. Let's just go do this for the day. And so we'd go and have dinner at a bar, and Ella loved it. She goes, Dad, I wish I could be a member at a place like this.
All right, so I got videos. I got video proof of this. Let me see if I can pull this up. Pat, I got you. Let me see here.
I mean, it was classic. It was like Roadhouse, like.
Is that like where I bought a round of eggs at your bachelor party?
Circle Tap.
Oh, I can't wait to tell that story, Andres.
Yes, please. This reminds me of.
I'm at Pat's bachelor party, and we were at a hole in the wall bar, and it had probably 40 or 50 people in it, and just like you said, Roadhouse. I'm just a hole in the wall, beautiful people bar, and I've always wanted to buy everybody in the bar around or something, but as Pat pointed out, low expenses equals big check. So anyway, I noticed at the bar there's a little sign, 25 cents for hard-boiled eggs. It's like, round of eggs. And I ordered a hard-boiled egg for everybody in the bar. And if I can do the math, 50 people times 25 cents, round eggs. And people would get their little egg with the salt and pepper, and they were like toasting me the egg, and it was a great day.
You big spender, you.
Yeah.
It was cost me like $18.
Yeah, that's 2 nights in a row. Look at this.
Here we go.
Look at this place.
Is that the bar?
Yeah. It says Scotty.
That's where we were.
I mean, this is like where I'm taking Ella to these.
Oh, okay. I thought that was.
We're having dinner, during deliveries. And I'm like,
they probably had eggs there too.
So priceless about selling books. I mean, you get out into just places that if you grew up in the suburbs, you never know that stuff. Now, growing up in a little town, I did know that, and that was my reconnection. It was like those environments are priceless. I mean, just like amazing.
It felt like that. I mean, that bar looks like every bar in Nebraska. Like, it took me home there. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in Portland now. I'm like, we don't see those kinds of places here.
Yeah.
In fact, that place in Portland would do great because it'd be like, oh, this is so different. It's like different here.
Yeah.
This is the place I'm talking about, like in the book field, whatever, you go in there like after deliveries, or I went my third summer, I went to a bar like this. Well, I was off schedule the whole summer, but anyway, for sure after deliveries, and you get in there, you're like the book guy, and people like know who you are. So when you show up at the end of the summer to a place like this, and you're old enough to like order a beer, they're like, it's on us. Like, we bought books. Like, I had customers at the bar.
Oh, that's great.
Buy me drinks. Like, all right, sweet. This is sweet. It's the book field takes you to the most random places on earth.
Yeah.
So bananas.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a story I should have probably told that's pretty interesting. Is you have time for another story for my son for summer?
We're here all day. I mean, I guess Pat has to go in half an hour because whatever, but
right.
We're here for a while.
This one's pretty relevant to your kid first summer. So he's 18, just out of high school, pretty young. And all my years of sales manager, and I've never had anybody go to jail, but my son went to jail his first summer. And so you think about a dad and son and all that. So anyways, that was pretty tough because, it was at the end of his summer. He had kind of had some bad PR. He knocked on a door and he opened it because he thought it was their porch, and it wasn't. So they were questioning him. Anyways, we thought it was in the past. And then I get a call here at home from him, and he's in deliveries. And he's just talking to me. He goes, hold on, somebody's calling me. And then he goes the other line. And then when he comes back, he's crying and he can't talk. And he goes, I'll call you back. And he hangs up. I had no idea what it was about. I just was freaked out because he was totally normal. And then he's crying, and I'm like, what's going on? And I'm down here in Georgia. About 5-10 minutes later, he calls me back and tells me that was the police, and they said I got to go back to that town where I had the bad PR, and I got to go to jail and bail myself. All this. It's like I was so happy that he was going to jail that he wasn't like upside down in a car or something.
It's just jail. Jail take care of it.
I mean,
yeah.
Ethan had the same thing, Jake. Ethan, he didn't go to jail, but he got some bad PR move his first summer, and it got so bad that he had to leave town. I mean, some dude some guy was like, "You're that guy," and started chasing him, and he literally had to lose the guy in his car like an old police movie or something. Like ditched him in an alley to get rid of this guy, and he literally had to abandon the town because it just the bad PR spiraled out of control. I mean, I can't imagine selling books in the FaceTime era.
Yeah. I was going to ask you guys about this because it was weird. I sold in 2012 through 2016. So I was really literally at that transition between when like it started being cool for moms to have Facebook. You know what I mean? It's like my first summer, no parent had Facebook. It was still like a college age, kind of like what like TikTok is today, where it's like the young kids use TikTok. But by the end of my fourth summer, by the middle of my fourth summer, every mom in the neighborhood watch had Facebook. So I witnessed that transition of like, how the fuck do kids do it today? So besides that, are there any differences that you guys noticed from when you sold books in the early 90s, mid 90s and late 90s to today? I mean, anything that really shocks you based on what your kids experience versus what you guys experience? And we can go back the other way. So Todd, maybe we'll go with you.
Definitely the whole Facebook scenario. I mean, that's hearing those stories. And you asked earlier, what's it like being a dad with your kids out selling books? Man, it was this last summer with both of them out there. I was like on edge of my seat on how well they were doing. And I wanted to know their stats so bad. And I wanted to just, and Danny kind of snuck me in where I was able to get on and look at it all. And like he worked with me, and so Jake gave me some insight, so I was able to kind of figure it out. But man, it was more intense than I remember when I was doing. Like it was just incredible. I wasn't too worried about them. Something bad happening. I was just more worried. Just wanted their emotion. Just worried about their emotional roller coaster.
Yeah. Yeah, I had Paja. I'd be like, hey, what's her stats? And Paja, you guys know, if you had
Paja is a stud. He's going to be on the show in January. He's
dude.
Top-notch human being. He's crazy stories.
He hooked me up with Ella's stats whenever I asked for it. And he was tracking her too, because they met when she was working in the office. And so he would always be sending me stats. So, but I was exactly where you were, Todd. Like, come on, just like be successful. Like, I just don't want to know that you're just dying on the vine because this job's too hard. It's too hard.
Before Pat goes, I got to get it in there. I got to get my in there. So what'd you think when Ellie pulled ahead of Ella?
Oh, this is it. This is the moment of the episode.
I had to go there.
Oh, well,
because Ella was Ella started off way stronger than Ellie. My daughter's Ellie is Ella.
Yeah,
and at some point Ellie pulled ahead.
Let's be clear about something real quick. Let's be clear about something. People always say you are your units or you're not your units. Let's make this clear. 100% you are your units, okay? Obviously, your entire character and personality is defined by the production and the number that you sell. So based on that, how'd your kids do?
We were watching it, and Todd and I talked a few times, and we're acting like we don't even care. Like, it's no big deal. But I was thinking, yeah, Ella's got a pretty good lead. But the thing is, she had an extra week. She started a week ahead, so the numbers were a little skewed. And then at the end, Ellie passed her up. So, I mean, kudos to Ellie. She finished strong. I mean, Ella's best week, I think, was like 575 or something. She was short of President's Club by a hair. And then I think that was maybe like week 11, and then week 12, I might be getting it off, but it's one of those things where it's like she just missed it and kind of deflated her to where she kind of put in I want to finish. What did Ellie hit PC?
I'm not sure.
Jake's kids
She was
did, so who
steady Eddie
cares?
though. When she started getting up there around PC, and then she just kept, you know. But again, every week she was just like, she thought this is the week she's not going to do it, and then she'd kind of have a good ending or whatever, and it was pretty intense. But what was fun about Ellie and Ella is it was a flashback, because it really is, and I know you're joking, Andreas, about that, because it really doesn't matter like what you do sell wise or not. Obviously, we all know that. But the flashback for me was going back to Pat's first summer, where I was his OL, and I was trying to motivate the whole group. And obviously, I'd done it, tons of summers, so I should be way better than these guys. But I looked at Pat. I remember, if you remember this, Pat, we'd make bets, and I said, "I'll double you," and I'll double you in customers. And it was like, when I said that, that's what kept me going. Is I was like, "Oh wow, I'm going to have to wear a skirt at the Sunday meeting if I don't double him, or something, whatever we bet." And so for me, watching Ella and Ellie was a flashback to the old competition days back in our day.
So funny.
But I mean,
this is great.
It's supposed to be for fun, right? Like the competition, it means something, and we're all rooting for each other. Like,
oh yeah,
and I think that's actually one of the things that has we brought from Southwestern Advantage to Southwestern Real Estate. Most real estate offices, people within the office genuinely consider each other as competition. And we're like, hey, we don't have to think about each other that way. I mean, who are we kidding? You got your network, I got my network. I mean, we're all working our network. So we can actually cheer for each other. And I think that's because, as the book field goes, everybody's got territory. So it's what you did with your territory that ought to be celebrated. And sure, you might be like, I hope I beat this guy. I hope I beat this guy. But in the end, it's all good, right? We're all just on the same team. So
yeah. Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I know I am. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the people that make this show possible, the people that bring this show to you. These are people who all sold books, and we're here to give a quick shout out to them in a spotlight about their company and what they're up to. So if you're interested, or if after listening to this, you're kind of wanting to know a little bit more, feel free to click on the links below to connect with these people. These are from an excerpt I have with them from a podcast that I do on the side. It's called Executive Exercises, where we take all our sponsors and they come into a think tank and share some awesome ideas about how to grow their business, specifically on different topics. Go check that out. But I pulled some of the comments that they had explaining what they do and who they're looking for on their companies. And so if that sounds like you, like I said, click below. Hope you enjoy. That's okay. And actually, and this is good to, I had Nick kind of explain this a little bit too, but because I've been in the insurance industry before, for people who are listening, like, how do you make 115% commission?
The way I explain it to people is the insurance companies we represent. So we're a broker. All these companies we work with, they know they're not really going to be making any money off the sales that I make for the first several years, but they don't care about that. They know these clients are going to be on the books for 10, 15, 20, 25 years. So they know they're going to make money over the long haul. And so part of the reason agents are able to make so much is there's all these companies out here, and they're all competing for the broker's business, because these companies don't actually have their own in-house sales force. They have independent contractors. And so if their compensation or their commission levels that they offer aren't competitive, I'm not going to place any business with them.
Hello, off schedule moment. Wanted to tell you about Southwestern Real Estate. They're 99% drama free, only 99, not 99.9. So it's a bit spicy, kind of like this episode. Anyway, they will learn you to kick ass at real estate. So make sure you guys click the link below, get in touch with them. Okay, back to work. Bye. That'll do for now. Like I said, make sure you click below to get some more information. And now back to the show. I agree.
And yeah, the more you don't care, at least the McWhirter family, the more we don't care, the better we do. As soon as we care too much, we break down.
Isn't that interesting? That's been a really common theme. So this is 185 episodes or something we've done. We're approaching 200, which is exciting. But out of all of those, honestly, I think that one of the most common themes, this is reoccurring episode to episode, is what you're saying, Todd, where it's like the minute that you stop really giving a crap about your production, like the actual number, and you just start really focusing on helping people or just bettering yourself or just being a good person, all of a sudden it just, I mean, if some book kids listen to this podcast during the summer. So for those kids, listen, stop taking yourself seriously, take what you're doing seriously, and then go bust loose, because what Todd just said is probably the key to just really selling a ton of anything. Is just, who cares how much you sell? Nobody cares. What
100%.
people care about is how much you care. So I'm glad that you said that, because that's a cool theme to take out. I mean, yeah, we're joking about production and Ellie and Ella and all that, but really at the end of the day, it's like, meh.
It's so true. One of my highlights was Ethan. He had one of his hardest weeks, and we were able to talk that Sunday, and he said, man, I am learning I don't know exactly how I'm paraphrasing here because I can't remember exactly, but something like, what I'm learning, Dad, is how to make sure my identity is on something a lot deeper than results, and more on like being a child of God, more on being in Christ kind of thing. And I tell you, when I heard that from Ethan, I'm like, that's all I need to know. That is so much more important, learning that and practicing that, than, all the books you could sell on the planet. I mean, it just is, because life is a lot hard, it gets rough, real life. And if your identity is in whatever, how many toys you got or how much money you make or whatever, you're in for a rocky road.
Amen to that. And this brings me to the next question. But before I do that, to get off this funny high horse topic, just so you guys know, check out this hoodie that we got for our fans. Units.
Oh, I love it.
So I expect each of you to be wearing and rocking one of these. It says units with a YOU, because of course you are your units.
I'm
I want to ask
to beer, by the way. I'm going to take a break.
Please do. I do have a question for all three of you. Jake, you sent me this. I wanted to share this on the screen. Can you explain what this is? This is interesting.
Oh, it was wild. A prior conversation about PR. So that was actually put that X over her face. That was done by like someone in her community that decided they didn't like what she was doing. We were talking about PR in the community, and like my daughter her second summer was harder for her than her first in a lot of ways. And one of her main things she wanted to do is have good PR. So she spent like $1,000 on this marketing system where they create the caricature and it's on your shirt.
It was
and
Justin.
It's on your, yeah. And it was great. And it was a great idea. Yeah. In fact, I hope they do it again. But her PR actually was worse her second year. And it seemed like it didn't work. And it's just more of her learning how to probably manage herself out there. But she had some pretty rough PR as
That's
a
intense.
5'1", 105-pound female. Yeah, and she's in the suburbs. My son's in the country, so he's figured his game out. But yeah, she got a lot of haters out there.
Those suburban moms are brutal. My third summer, oh my God. Let me tell you, while we wait for Pat and Todd to come back, my third summer, I was in a town called Nazareth, Pennsylvania, just it's close to Allentown. And some moms were like GPS tracking me, not like they had a GPS on me, but I found this out later, but it was basically, they were like, he's on 3rd Street. He's coming up your way, Patty. And so then Patty would answer the door and she's like, I know what you're doing and I'm not interested. And she'd close the door and I'd go to the next one. Like, that's weird. I mean, you get that every once in a while, but not like every freaking door. So I would go to the next door and be like, I know what you're doing. And because, you'd get the old, oh, I'm sorry, have you not heard about me? And they'd be like, no, we've heard about you. You suck. Leave. And you're like, oh, okay. And so later on, finally, I had this lady named Mickey DeGenesee, this big black lady. I shit you not, this is what she said. She's like, are you with Southwestern? And I was like, oh my God, she's heard of me. Like, there must be some sort of Facebook thing going on. She's like, are you with Southwestern? I go, yeah, I'm selling books. At this point, I'm pissed. She goes, my God, I've been waiting y'all for a decade to come back around. I've been seeing y'all for all over the Facebook place. I was hoping you were going to come to my house. Ain't nobody come around here for like 10 years. I've been waiting for y'all to come around. I homeschool my grandbabies. I homeschool my babies. I've been needing some books for my kids. Come on inside. You like chicken? And I was like, Yes, I love chicken. So that's how I found out. She showed me the Facebook post. She's like, I knew all these moms, they don't know what to talk about. Tina and Tammy, they ain't the nicest ladies in town, but honey, I got you. She bought like some books. She's the greatest, but the same thing. They could be vicious. I read some of the comments and stuff. I mean, they were talking about my height. They were talking about my hairline. They were talking about my brown, beautiful skin. They were talking about my not so brown, beautiful skin. It was, we had a variety of Tammys and Karens on that Facebook group, but it's brutal nowadays. So I'm glad you brought it, because this is insane. Look at this, an X on her face, bro. What the? That's so intense.
It was like what you were describing. She got the reviews and she had to like stop allowing reviews because it was getting pretty nasty in the words part too.
That's crazy.
She got tougher skin this second summer for sure.
Someone was selling mugs off of that. That's crazy.
That's nuts. So Ellie told me she's in Pennsylvania in little towns, and she's like, everybody smokes cigarettes here. Like, it's crazy. And I was like, hey, Ellie, the goal is to get them to light one up, because we all know.
Yes.
When that mom lights one up,
she's buying.
She's buying.
That is the number one green sign.
As soon as the mom's like tells the daughter, honey, go get me my cigarettes. You're like,
dude.
Oh man.
Hold on a second. Todd used to he worked that into a close. He used to do a thing just to get people to light up. He'd be like, it's like one mom I was talking to. She was saying, okay, Todd, I see how it's going to help me, and I see how it's going to help the kids. And then she just took the cigarettes out, and she threw them down on the table, pulled one out, lit it up, and she just said, it's going to help the kids. Something I got to do. It was some BS close like that.
Advanced sales, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh, that's good. Write that down. If you're listening and you're in the book field, that's a close right there.
Remember that?
Get them to light up.
I mean, you don't want people to smoke all these cigarettes, but one's not going to kill them.
Oh my gosh! Because you used to be like, slam that pack of cigarettes down, lit one up,
one out.
If it's going to help the kids, it's worth it. Something like that. Oh
I mean, he didn't lie, right? I mean, he was.
Yeah.
I mean, only Todd McWhirter could use a close that was so dramatic as that.
Well, what's so great is that's the one thing, that things don't change. 30 years later, my daughter's selling books, and the cigarette's still the key to, knowing whether they're going to buy or not.
We had Jim Potts on the show, who sold in 1968. So far, he's been the person who sold the earliest. He's been the oldest, and I don't mean to say he's old, but I mean, he sold in 1968, so it is what it is. But and to hear, I mean, obviously there's been some differences. He used to hitchhike to get to, sales school, which a little different now, right? But from the standpoint of his experience of sales school to the first store to finding an HQ, right? It's incredible how much some stuff just does not change. It's just the same thing. Politics have changed. I mean, Cold War has come. Countries have come and gone since he sold, and it's still the same experience. It's bananas. It's so bananas.
So I said to Ella when I was up there delivering with her, I'm like, okay, because I'm trying to get to the heart of like, what are you experiencing with these families, And I'm like, so what do you, when you think about Wisconsin, and you're up in northern Wisconsin, just meeting families, and like, what's a thing that happens where you're like, oh, that is so Wisconsin? And she goes, if they're home, they're drinking. And so I retold that story at the Sunday meeting, and with all those kids, and they're like, oh yeah. She's like, I've had people offer me a White Claw at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. Like, if they're home, they're drinking.
Oh, that's funny.
Let me tell you, there's nothing wrong with alcoholic seltzer water in the morning, Pat. All right. I was drinking one at 9 a.m. this morning with you. Damn it.
It's a podcast career. It's a part of the job.
It's a hard life. It's really intense. I wanted to ask you guys this this question because I think it would mean a lot. And one of the things that I love about what we're doing here at the show is that these stories are out and they're documented in some way, shape, or form. Maybe this podcast might not last 160 years like the company, but at some point somebody can come back and find this. And so, could you guys share? I don't know if your kids even listen to our show or not. If they do, that's great. If not, that's fine too. But if you could tell them what you're most proud of them for, or like what the thing that they learned that you're most proud that they learned, or something like that you, if you could take this moment really quick to give them that message, what would that be? And we can go in whatever order you guys want. Let's start with Todd and go back the other way. But I'm asking this because somebody mentioned about, like, Todd, you're the one that mentioned that, like, Ethan learned about how, like, hey, if I'm living in a certain way, right, that's really impactful as a dad, I feel like, to hear.
Identity.
I don't know. So if you guys could share what you're the most proud of for, maybe they listen to this at some point and go, wow, this is cool. What is that thing?
Yeah. So for sure, when Ethan shared with me that he's learning to have his identity on something way deeper than results, and something more in line with his being a child of God, that just, as a father, man, there's nothing more amazing than that. And just like you said, Pat, I'm proud of the fact that my kids are able to, by choice, work 80 hours a week and bust their butt and get rejected and go through it and hang in there and come out with a smile on, either way. I mean, that makes a dad proud. No question about it, and for Ellie, both of them, but this is a great story that shows. Ellie would say many times the people she's meeting is what she's learning the most. Like, she's learning what kind of mom she wants to be, what kind of wife she wants to be, what kind of person she wants to be. And one of her highlights was a 0 day. She was sitting on a 0 and in a really bad place, and her car broke down about 7 o'clock at night in someone's driveway. And she felt so bad. She's like, I am so sorry. My car won't start. And the family kind of came to, and they're like, oh, let me get my dad. He's good at stuff like this. And long story short, it was some beautiful family. I think the guy was a pastor, believe it or not. And he went and got her a new battery. Loaned her a bicycle so she could keep selling. So Ellie went on their bicycle and kept working, came back, and they had the car all fixed up with a new battery. And she was like, well, how much is it? Let me pay you. And she was like, no, this one's on me. I mean, it makes me choke up. Like, this family took care of my daughter, didn't accept money. And I don't think Ellie sold anything that day. I think it was a 0 day. And she was in the best mood. She's like, I met the best family. It was so amazing. And that's the kind of stuff that breaks your heart. I mean, that's the stuff that doesn't break your heart. It makes you emotional, but makes you realize that's what it's about.
Oof,
the people you meet. I mean, I fell in love with humanity doing the book field. I mean, I didn't. A lot of people think, oh, don't you see all how people, are mean and they're this and they reject you. But at the end of the day, there's so many amazing stories and amazing people that, at least for me, and I think for my kids, we love humanity more, not less. So,
wow, that's all right. Jake, over to you.
Well, I don't know if you're able to play that audio I sent you. You don't have to play it right now, but it's pretty cool. It's one of my son's voicemail. Instead of talking, he left me a voicemail, and it was the end of his first summer, and it kind of encapsulates kind of what Todd was just saying about just that amazing attitude. So I don't know if we get a chance to play it, but that'd be cool at some point. But for me, my experience, I sold books when I was 22, my first summer, and a lot happens between 18 and 22 in terms of just being able to handle life and maturity and just all these emotions. And so for my kids, choosing to go out and do that at 18 years old and just handling it like like just stepping right into adulthood and expecting to be successful, expecting to finish what they started. And like just that emotional control is just amazing to me, because I don't know if I could have done that at 18, 19, 20. I don't know how it would have turned out, at least. And I had a really, like, I was 22, and to see them go out and do that and come out flying colors, and even how they've handled Southwestern in general, they looked at it very logically. They said, you know what, and this is just them, and it works for their life. But they're like, yeah, I think I should do that for college, like 4 summers, like. And then since they're 18, it was 5. So they both committed to 5 summers before their first summer, in a sense. And I knew it's not a commitment until they see how that first 3 weeks go. But and that's how they've been. They haven't doubted their decision. In the falls, for me, even, you know, I was like wishy-washy and stuff like that. And that's kind of a normal thing. But they're both just in for 5 summers, and they see it made sense, and so they don't let their emotions sway them, and they just kind of ride it out. And it's really helped them do well with like recruiting and the team building, getting soaking the juice out of what Southwestern has, which a lot of it's after your summer that you can do that. So I'm really proud of them for that.
I love it. I'm trying to see if I can find a way to play this clip, because I'm listening to it right now, but I don't know if I can see if I can use it. But Pat, go ahead and see me. Let me see if I can.
Hear it. All right. I can talk while you try to get it, because I want to hear that.
Wait, and I can't. Dang. Okay, let me keep trying. Go ahead, Pat.
I guess what I'm thinking is, so I didn't get to play a role in convincing my daughter to do this, but she ended up doing it. And what I think came out of it for us is, so all of growing up, Ella was always super close with my wife. Like, just the two of them just always were close. And I felt like I was trying to be close to her, but it was a harder connection than it was with the boys. I think with the boys, you know, we were doing sports and things, and it was like, and Ella was sporty too, and I was at all of her events, but it just, I always felt like there was a little gap between me and Ella that wasn't there between the boys. And for her to be the one that actually stepped into that world, it actually felt kind of like, now, and actually I remember in the family chat, there was a thing where it's like, wow, you and Dad have this thing. Like, you and Dad know this thing that nobody else really knows. And
that's cool.
I think that was kind of the thing for me to feel like, whatever gap there ever was, there's a part that actually, you know, that we're connected on. And even my son, who's in the Army, was like, hey, I don't know if when I get out of the Army, you know, he's going to do some more, he's going to re-up on his contract. And he's like, you know, I don't know if another 3-4 years, maybe I want to go to college, maybe I don't, maybe I want to sell real estate with you. But if I do want to sell real estate with you, maybe I should sell books first. Like, maybe that, based on what Ella's experience has been, maybe that's a thing I should do. And it just kind of, I mean,
that's cool, Pat.
It just takes me back to being that kid who's in a first year going, man, I hope my kids do this someday. Like, when you're a first year and you can perceive that there's a nugget in there that you would want for your prodigy that you don't even have yet, right? But then it happens, and it is what you imagined when you were 18 or 20 or 2 in Jake's case. You know, like, you can perceive it. There's a worthwhile thing. There's a difference maker in it, and then it happens, and then all of a sudden another kid of your family goes, there is something there. And, you know, I don't know. The whole thing just seems very bonding.
Well, it is. Having your kids finally realize, because they heard about you selling books, Pat. They heard about you, Jake. They heard about me selling books and selling. Oh, he did that book thing, whatever that book thing is. I met all my friends, so many friends that sell books. Oh, he's a book guy. And then when they do it, they're like, holy, now I get it. And so there's it brings a connection between dad and son and dad and daughter. That's quite powerful. I agree.
Yeah.
Hey, on that note, with all this emotion, I know there's a lot of alumni listening. And aside from me being involved with the company or Pat being involved with the company anyway, I just want to put a plug in there because I've worked with 15 or 20 alumni kids, and it's just across the board. I mean, everyone has finished. Not that they're guaranteed anything, but everyone has finished, and they've generally done really well, as all of our kids have. And so there's a little nugget of conviction and confidence that they'll naturally have to help them do well. And I just wanted to put a little plug that, because I've come across some alumni that understandably just don't want them to have to go through that.
Yeah, we've had them on the show. Yeah,
yeah, it's understandable. And you've had success maybe, and maybe they don't need to do that. And that's just human nature. But
Jake cut off there a second. Oh, Pat, can you still hear him?
You'll have that.
No, there you go. All right, he's back.
Okay, you're back. You're back.
Is that me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost.
Anyways, I was just saying. Yeah, I was just saying it's special, and you just heard it from Todd and Pat and myself.
Yeah.
To have them experience it, and you don't have to push them, and you don't have to worry, if they don't. But like, yeah, if you get a chance, whether it be an event or GRS or just at least don't throw interference, because I do. It's not as common, but it does happen where alumni they're like, oh no, not my kid. And it's like, oh, are you serious? Like, you just don't know what you don't know. Even though you don't know what you don't know, because you have to revisit it. Maybe you should just go to GRS or something by yourself and go to a Sunday meeting by yourself, like Barrett did. Like Todd was saying with Barrett, like that might have whatever. I didn't know Barrett had any issues from the past that were kind of negative, but like maybe break through some of that. But anyways, just a little plug there for that. I'd love for you guys to have that.
Yeah. I mean, on that, and I'm still working on getting this audio. I think I almost forgot to figure it out, Jake, from your son. But while I'm working on this, I also wanted to ask a follow-up question kind of along the same lines. But I've asked other parents this before. And by the way, we want to have episodes where we can have kids and their parents who both sold. We have themes sometimes on the show. Last February, we had couples who met and now they're married because of Southwestern. So it was like all February. It was just couples who met selling books. And one of the months we wanted to have was parents and kids. But in that month of like the married couples who have kids, we counted there was like 13 children that have been born because of Southwestern indirectly. Yeah, I mean, no, just in that month, we had 8 episodes, and just out of those 8 episodes, 13 kids, not probably more since last year. And one of the things I asked during that section of guests that I wanted to ask you guys is, did you guys always raise your kids with Southwestern principles? Like, how did you teach schedules your lifeline, or like attitude, right? Or like self-talk? Was that something that you instilled in them when they were younger, or like, how did you navigate parenting with your Southwestern knowledge? While you guys answer that, I'm going to try to get Jake's. I think I almost got to figure it out, Jake. So I do want to play this.
Well,
but if you guys could answer that.
If this is going to work, I want to preface it. It's his first summer, and it's like his best week was week 8, and then he had a lot of the PR stuff. And he had to relocate and all this, and so he was struggling. He was having his worst week of his summer, week 11, which was his final week. And then in the middle of the week, I get this voicemail at the end of the day on his way home, and that's the setting. So if you get to hear it, it's kind of cool. And it's kind of what Todd was saying about it. That's what you want them to have. I'm so proud of it. But your question on what was the question? Sorry.
How we raised our kids.
Oh yeah, for me, I don't know. It wasn't real proactive. It wasn't really tangible. It would just be. I mean, hopefully there's some good stuff in there. Yeah, I mean, they remember the Bookman song that they don't sing anymore. I sung that a lot over the years.
For me, my kids will attest. The one thing that stuck is whenever something would go wrong, like we would be going up skiing and the flat tire or something would happen to our car or whatever, and we have to abandon the day. We'd be like, "Hey guys, think of 3 good things." So they remember I'm always thinking of 3 good things every time something went wrong. So that was one that I definitely brought with me.
I mean, here's the way that I think the answer to the question is, if you sell books a bunch of summers, you're a different person. The kids, the way you're going to lead kids and the way you're going to live your life is a different output than if you never did it in the first place. So how does Bookfield translate into our kids? It's because it becomes who you are as a person. Now, I would also say, you got to remember with any kid, there's two people involved. And if, like in all three of our cases, our wives didn't sell books. I think all three of them have an appreciation for Southwestern, but that's not the way they're approaching life, or they're not indoctrinated in the same way. And so you kind of bring your ideas, and she brings her ideas, and that's what your kids turn out to be a result of. And I think that that's actually super healthy. I think there's a optimism, a positivity that Southwestern people tend to lean into, but I don't know how that gets. I don't know that as we're raising kids, it's kind of like this is a Southwestern thing. I think it's more like this is who I became because I did this for a bunch of summers.
In my head, I feel like when we've heard from parents about this, it's like a fine line, right? Because you don't always want to just like, I don't want to say bully, but like pressure them into be like, be positive or whatever. I mean, you still have to develop children that can feel all of the emotions. And so navigating that is really tough. I feel like also like, I think of Danny and Aisha right now, right? You guys all know them, but they got two. Holy mother of God, I got two nephews. They're working hard, y'all. They are, as we know, they are on schedule, hard workers. And and in my head, I'm like, man, how do you something as massive and impactful that was Southwestern to their lives? I mean, I remember when I first met Aisha, they had the same first summer. I trained both of them. I trained Danny and Aisha. And now they're parents, and I'm like, oh my God, you two are parents. Like, I know what makes you guys tick. I've known Danny for his entire life, and in my head, I'm praying that they are able to Vale and Vaco to guide them the right way without being too overbearing. And so I feel like you guys have done a great job of finding that line. And I think it helps that your spouses didn't sell, which is good. My wife didn't sell either. So I feel like that's going to help when we have kids, but I think it's a good thing that you guys, somehow your kids so naturally found a way to just do this thing that dad did. That's such a cool thing to look back on. Like golly, that's a phenomenal
I
thing.
think for my kids, the biggest thing is the not afraid to be a minority on a thought or an idea or things you're doing. Not afraid to go against the grain, not follow the crowd. Like I think they've just seen that in my life, in our family's life, and that's been a trigger of knocking on doors and not caring what people think. And so, in fact, sometimes my wife has to bear the brunt of it. It's like, oh, Mom, you didn't sell books, so therefore, and now especially the ones I've done, so they battle with that a little bit. But yeah, just the more the attitude towards risks and stuff. So
you don't know anything, Mom. You don't know what it's like to be on a Wednesday in a curb.
Right.
I've been looking down trying to find this photo. This is Pat Roach and myself and Beth in India.
Oh yeah, dude.
We volunteered for the Missionaries of Charity. Wow. So back in the Wheaton days, we would all, because we were from a Christian college, we kind of had this idea, hey, let's do mission trips during the fall. And so we started doing that. What did we do it for like 3 or 4 years? Jake went to, I think you went to Haiti, or maybe that was Colin.
Yeah, well,
Pat
we hosted in Birmingham, but yeah.
Yeah, we did those, the Habitat for Humanity.
Text me that picture, Todd. I don't have that.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like, okay, so I'll take this thing off the rails back to Southwestern again. We kind of do a Sizzler story real quick, but I think it goes to the heart of Southwestern. And what I learned from Todd really is I go to my first Sizzler. I don't know if you can believe this. It was in Venezuela, which is like, who goes to
Your Sizzler?
Yeah.
Oh, I remember this.
Oh, shit. And so we go on our first Sizzler, and Todd's been doing this for, a bunch of years at this point. So he's like a Sizzler pro. He knows how to do Sizzler and how to do it perfectly. And we're all green, and we're, there's cockroaches in the hotel. We don't care. Like, it's like, whatever. We're in Venezuela. Look at us. Like the first flight I've ever taken or something, like kid from Wisconsin. So Todd is like brilliant, and he goes, guys, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get a rental car. I've already talked to people. I'm gonna get a restaurant up in the mountains. We're gonna find a place, and we're gonna do our own thing one night. And I'm telling you, we went up into the mountains on these windy roads that were just like crazy. And we find this little restaurant that was absolutely gorgeous. And there's nobody in there but us 8 people that walked in, all booksellers that were in Todd's group. And it was the most special night. And every year for Sizzler, Todd would go, let's get off the grid. Let's go off from whatever this location is. Let's go find the place where only locals go. And we're going to go find that, and we're going to hang there for a night. That was a thing that actually transferred to when I was a sales manager, and there would be a night of the Sizzler where I'd be like, we're going to talk to the locals. We're going to find out where the thing is, the off-the-road thing that nobody knows about. We're going to do it. And it all started with you, Todd.
I love it.
Ended my last year where we heard about in Costa Rica where there were crocodiles under a bridge, and you could throw a chicken over the bridge and watch them eat it. And the guys were like, it's totally illegal. And we're like, yeah, but we heard we could do it. So we did it, and we threw Henry the chicken. Eva, don't call me. We threw Henry the chicken. He fluttered down all the way down. This crocodile just ate him. And it was all because of you, Todd.
Oh, I love it. Pat, do you remember that? I think it was that same trip where we got pulled over by the police when we all had open beers, I think. It was like, we weren't drunk. We were just starting, it was that, that first seltzer, whatever. But, and there was like police problem. And I remember going, okay, I know how to do it. Hey, everybody pull a 20 out. And we had 6 of us, a Jeep or something. And everybody pulled a 20 out. And we were like, we can solve this problem. And so we solved the problem with, $120. Problem went away.
I think 20 would have done the job.
Oh my God.
Dude, send it
to me. Send it to me so I can put it. Can you text me that so I can put it on the screen big time? Because I feel like it deserves full HQ.
Yeah,
that is amazing.
I don't know how to do it other than screenshot at this point because I was trying to find it, but I'll screenshot it.
And Andreas, I got a Jake story too. Jake and I, when he became a sales manager, and I got to compliment both of you guys. I told this story on my other podcast, but when I left, I took a year. I wasn't leaving. It was a dream of mine to travel for over a year. And this is such a compliment to Pat and Jake that I got to share this story. So Beth and I got married 3 days later. I wanted to travel for over a calendar year. That was one of my goals. And if you guys remember, I was promoting this in our group, like, hey, once you're at 10 years, everybody should be able to take a sabbatical for a year. We'll cover your base. You can come back. Don't miss a beat. And we were kind of talking about that. Well, Craig really wasn't interested in this idea. So when I left, he was a little bitter. It was my dream, and they all knew my dream. So while I was away, because I was their sales manager at the time. I was an FSL, but they were under me. While I was away, he promoted Jake and Pat above me. Oh, so when I came back, It was like, well, you lost your group, Todd, you know, and these two guys right here, Pat and Jake, would have nothing of it. And they said, no, Craig, that's not how it's going to go down. And Todd gets to come back in and he gets his group and, you know, yada, yada, yada. And I don't know how you guys pulled it off, but you guys allowed me to come back and get my whole group back. And there for a minute, Jake and I were like, under each other somehow. Like I was getting paid off of him and he was, I don't know how it all worked out, but they were all naturals for me. But at the end of the day, these two guys got my group back where I was able to continue on as a DSL with everybody still intact. And
it was more fun when you were a part of it.
But
it was
Craig was kind of, I love Craig, but he was a little bitter that I took 18 months off and but you guys were able to pull me back. And then so thank you. I got, it's a compliment to you guys. You had my back the whole time and it was awesome. And then Jake and I were kind of partnering up at Sanford University.
Really well, you show up at Sizzler.
We were so hardcore that we were telling the people that you're going to cry. Like if you do this, you're going to want to quit. You're going to cry. It's going to be the most horrible thing you've ever tried. You're going to cuss us. You're going to hate it. And we had a whole group that year, all of them crying. It was like, remember that? We had everybody crying. It was like, oh, maybe we went a little too far.
Well,
yeah.
I feel like
awesome.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I know I am. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the people that make this show possible, the people that bring this show to you. On a note from I'm trying to think, like if I was looking into this, and for people who are listening who might be like, hey, this actually, I want to learn more about this. What's the barrier to entry? Like maybe I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, that sounds cool, but I don't know shit about insurance. Like why would I want to go talk to people?
Yeah, the barriers to entry, I think, are really pretty low. Everybody would probably have a different opinion, but in terms to just be able to get out the door and go sell, you've got to get a license. I have my life and health license because you needed the health license at Family Heritage, or if you want to sell Medicare products or certain types of health products, you have to have the health side. But what it takes to get either one or both of those licenses is roughly the same. You take a study course. You may need to study for 15 hours. You may need to study as many as 30 hours. But like with Cardinal, we've got a pretty cool course. From studying to getting your license can be as quick as like 7 to 10 days if you really 15 to 20 if you're moving at a medium pace. And beyond that, if it takes you longer than that, you're just not really all that motivated to start because it's not a difficult process.
Knock, knock. Last off-schedule story. Guys, I want to tell you about my good friend, Alex Black. I used to work over at EnLight.Energy, and it was a pleasure working with him and that entire company. Definitely would recommend you guys check out what that opportunity is. It was a great way to make money, and it was one of the most rewarding experiences I had to help people take ownership of their power. It's pretty cool. So on that note, let's finish up this episode. Bye. That'll do for now. Like I said, make sure you click below to get some more information. And now back to the show. I feel like this is a good opportunity really quick. First of all, you guys all worked with Craig Soder, the late Craig Soder, which we've heard and celebrated many times on the show. You guys worked directly with him. So first, let's take a toast. A toast. Raise your glass to Mr. Craig Soder. May you rest in peace. Good. What a life of a human being.
Amen.
Yeah, amen.
Can you guys share really quick a little bit about what it was like and what he was like? Because to be honest with you, I met Craig 2015 at a GRS2 in NOLA. I didn't even know who the heck he was. Nobody had in the force had really mentioned anything about him. I had no reason to really know who he was. And then I met him and I'm like, dude, this guy is incredible. And then he like died just a short while after. So may he rest in peace. But can you guys fill maybe anybody else who might be like me who didn't really know who he was and his legacy and the impact that he really had on the company as a whole? Can you each maybe share a little bit about maybe your favorite memory of him or something that about him that maybe people might not know, or just a quick honoring of him? We can go by Pat and go the other way.
I mean, it's funny that like I'm just having so many flashbacks as you're just like running through that, idea of honoring Craig because Todd was the one that called me the day that he died. And I remembered I was in a rental car. I can't remember even what state I was in. And I'm like, I can't, what are you talking about? Like, it happened. Like, this is terrible. And I just started bawling. And I was like, I got to get the number to his daughter. I got to get Janet's number. And I'm like calling them, crying, leaving voicemails. And, but I mean, if you go back to the reason we were so close, what's interesting about it, I mean, I still have memories of him running the interview where I didn't really decide. He closed me hard on selling books and I signed the DA. But I remember looking at his fat sausage fingers with this wedding ring that was so embedded into those fat fingers that it was like, you haven't taken that thing off in years. I'm surprised your finger hasn't fallen off of those fat sausages. But it was like
Shrek fingers.
Craig was like a presence. He would sit there on the edge of a chair with these, because he's kind of like a full-bodied dude, like football player, fullback guy, and he had these wearing a suit, and his pants were stretched so tight, and it's all like groin and thighs, and, fat fingers, and he's kind of like grabbing his own thighs while he's talking to you and stuff, and it's like, yeah, this is like a caricature, but yet that guy was extremely intelligent, and he just had a heart for people. That even though he was kind of like a good old boy, Burt Reynolds kind of guy, like whatever, he was genuine and very much like a father figure in the way that he cared for us, and the way that he took care of us, and the way that he actually communicated with parents was very parent to parent, like it was a real thing. And Craig and I eventually had our day as, where we had to clash and have a real schism in our relationship. But as bad as that was, it just redefined kind of like this new relationship for us. Like it was kind of like a kid leaving the nest, like I got to do this with my parents, and now I got to do this with Craig. But we got to have a clash, and we're going to go our separate ways. But you're always going to be my dad, kind of thing. It's like one of those. But man, I think about the impact that Craig lived on this life, and I don't know what the afterlife is like, but on this side of things, he made a massive impact on people.
How many people do you think that? It's got to be thousands. I mean, thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not, right? Like it just the lives that he impacted. It sounds like to me.
His funeral was a party. There was so many people there. It was. I'll never forget that weekend. That was just an incredible, and just the impacts are unending. And he had some we were definitely like
oil and water
hate between Todd and Craig.
You and Craig were like oil and water.
We butted heads quite a bit.
But he
got me. I'll tell you what. He used some tactics, like the way I got to become a recruiter and love it is, he did one of those things where he's like, if you don't learn how to lead people, you're probably not going to succeed in life, kind of thing. And I'm very susceptible to that sort of, I want to succeed in life. Now I have to, and I told this story on my other podcast, but he convinced me that I need to learn how to lead. So I said, okay, I'll come back one last summer. This is it though, Craig. I'm going to have a top 10 team and I'll sign the dealer agreement, but you have to sign an agreement that you will not try to recruit me again, ever again. We mutually, I made him sign that. So he guilted me in, literally, like, if you don't learn to lead people, you'll never succeed. And it got under my skin. And I was like, I'm going to learn to lead people. So I brought a top 10 team. I think my team finished number 9. And I loved it. Finally, I loved it. And then I wanted to come back and, so it worked, And so he really did, his tactics, although I didn't like him at the time, I'm very thankful for him, because I wouldn't know Jake and Pat and anybody else if I didn't learn to lead.
Unreal. Oh, look at this picture.
He's one of the only guys I have in my office. Like on the
there he is. Jake, what was he like from your experience? Thanks for sharing that. Pat.
Well, the story I was going to share, what he was like for me, and what I kind of see him with Todd and all the different people, he's kind of like that professional, really good professional coach that can handle lots of different types of people. Like he did have flexibility. Not everybody did. Not every, especially back then, Southwestern sales managers might have had their system and their rigidness. He allowed us to not do 30 demos a day, against the grain somewhat, and do it our way in our group. And recruiting was a big one. Like he was not always about the meet them, sign them up, let's go. We need paper. We need to see paper. Like he was really cool with it, because I wouldn't have worked with that. And neither would a lot of the people that he recruited. And he kind of showed a lot of things that, I think of a saying for him is, a lot of times people are being so efficient, they forget to be effective. I find myself saying things about my dad. Oh, this is what my dad used to say, or Craig used to say. That's one is, we're so efficient, we're not effective. So he was very smart in the business too. And I remember my one story. It's not necessarily a good story, but there came a point in Southwestern where they kind of cleaned house, and they kind of like started over, and they said time to retire. The 5 big guys and the president, and I don't know what all went into that, but so Craig, against his will, had to leave Southwestern, and I happened to, I had been an alumni for probably 10 years, and so he didn't mind like venting it all on me, because I happened to be going through Nashville, so I sat on his couch as he was right in the middle of it, and he just was, for a couple of hours just sharing all that's going on and why he's mad at this person. So I was his PC. At least I got to be the privilege of doing that. And then the next day, because I was at his house for some reason, and the next day we went to the office, and it was just like a moment, because he looked at his office and he had Craig Soder on the door, and he took his box out, and he grabbed his sign. He goes, "Hey, we get a picture of this?" And he wanted me to get a picture of him taking his sign off the door, because he had been there since 18 years old to whatever. And he's like, so he was kind of bitter, but it's kind of emotional. It's like I was there for that little journey of leaving Southwestern, and of course he got to come back, years later and kind of end with Southwestern, which was really cool. But that's what I remember, just that emotional part of his life. And it was great to hear at his funeral. The part I didn't know until the funeral was what he did with himself when he really got rid of Southwestern, when he took this passion away, and he didn't just get depressed, and he actually did reinvent himself in friendships that and with his guys in his church, and he would go to like their dad's funerals across the country. Like, I don't do that. It's what a great idea to go to your friend's dad's funeral just to support him. He would do that because he loved to drive in his car and do that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, what a human being.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we miss him. He was something else.
Yeah,
sure.
I wish I would have gotten to know him better, honestly. Like he was just right, missed them by timing. It is what it is. But to close up, I guess can you guys believe it's been an hour and 41 minutes? It just goes so fast every time we do the show. It's like I look up, I'm like, oh my God, it's been that time. I wanted to ask this of each of you. I'm sure there's more stuff we could still talk about, and this will probably come up naturally with this question, but I wanted to tie this into what you guys and you three and your friendship. And look, listen, this is pretty special, right? Like I have friends that I still talk to they're some of my closest friends that I sold books with, right? And I wanted each one of you guys to share a little bit about what your friendship with the other two means to you and how it's affected you in your life, and how you guys have leaned on each other through the triumphs and maybe some of the failures of your life. So if you guys could quickly share, not quickly, take your time and share some of your favorite memories of each other. One of the things I was looking forward to the most on this episode specifically was that I was going to have 3 real legends. And if people don't know what I mean by legends, just a quick rundown. And I know you guys are too humble to brag about yourselves, so I'm just going to do this and let you guys do this for the other two. But Pat is the president of Southwestern Real Estate, which is it sounds simple when you say it, but you started a real estate company knowing nothing about real estate and just built this empire that is still growing today over several states across the United States. We've had several of their agents on the show. He is a phenomenal speaker as well. Just incredible human being. Jake sold, left, came back, still built an empire. And by honestly, Jake, I haven't gotten to meet you as well as I want to, but from my brother, his wife, Pat, and Todd, the character that you hold as a human being is probably top notch with Dan Moore, which is probably one of the best compliments you can give another bookman, honestly, at this point. And I'm honored that you're even here sharing the stage with us. And Todd, of course, you're a legend on your own with what you had to share on your career as far as, recruiting and really getting into the psychology of impacting another human being emotionally and getting the best and getting them to be their best. So I am honored here to be with you three, but if I could hear from your guys' words about what your friendship has meant, what your connection has meant, how Southwestern has brought you guys together and kept you guys as friends in your life, that'd be really cool. I think a cool way to kind of put a pin on this show. It can be 5 minutes, it can be 20 minutes. But if you guys could open up a little bit about what the other two people on this call have represented in your life and how they've changed and impacted you, I think that would be a cool way to close. Or you can totally be, have a cool card and totally not answer that question. It's your call. Pat, go ahead.
I can start.
Or Jake, Jake, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'm good. All right. So we live far away from each other. Pat's in Chicago. I'm in Atlanta. Todd's in Denver. And, we don't talk every day, or we're not necessarily doing retreats together, and we have different circles. Our kids go to different schools and all that stuff. And it's kind of nice as our kids get older, we might be able to hang out a little bit more, right? And I
come to Bisler.
That, it's right. Bisler, that's right. So I'm actually excited about the second half for that reason, for sure. I have made my way out to Denver a few times and had a little more hikes going on with Todd's group, as we wanted to. Denver's a little cooler than Glen Ellen to me, since I grew up near Glen Ellen. But Pat and I have done business deals. I've given him some referrals. He helped me sell a house. He helped me buy a house. Todd and I have been part of startups with Pat. We've invested in a lot of startup companies over the years. Probably 15, I think, for me. And when I made one of the biggest decisions I've made lately is come back to Southwestern. My first call was to see if I should do this with my wife, because I wasn't at home. And then pretty much the next one was Todd and Pat. I sat down with Pat up in Chicago and for lunch, and got his opinion about this huge decision in my life that wasn't very logical financially. And when I really, what he thought about it really mattered, and same with Todd. And it was just those two, and like one other guy named Tim Ritzer. You might have had him. So
not yet. He's coming though.
They're when I have a big decision, these guys are in my corner. We're not in a small group together. We're not necessarily in accountability groups, but we could be in a heartbeat. And so that's the business, financial, professional, friendship. And I'm really looking forward to the future. And it's nice that Pat and I share the same company now for the last 5 years. So that's kind of fun too. I was working with one of Pat's guys today, actually, talking about real estate. So one of the guys in his company. So. And Pat, by the way, I was thinking this at the beginning. I've got a guy in my group that probably on his last year, he might not even do it this year. He'd be a great candidate to interview with you. So don't let me forget Travis.
Cool. Send them to Hans.
Business for Todd. I need your official name for the LLC we're creating. Whether you want to use the trust or your name.
Don't send him to Hans. Don't send him to Hans. Send him to me, and we'll send him to Pat. Come on now. I'm not saying Hans or Shane Merrick or whoever else is work, Ben Kessler, but little more transparent on this side of town.
Oh, Ben moved on. There's a new guy.
Oh, jeez. We're going to have to get Ben on the show and find out what he's up to now. Anyway, sorry to interrupt that. But yeah, send him this way. We'll send him over to Pat.
Well, thanks, Jake. I'll take next on the question. Are you finished, or do you want to?
Yeah.
Because Pat and I want to hear some more compliments if you want to keep going.
Yeah.
Okay. But I tell you, what comes to my mind is genuine friendship. Somebody who knows the good, bad, and the ugly. I mean, these guys know me very, very well. They've seen me. After 2008, when that whole thing collapsed, both Pat and Jake were right there. And I went through a bit of a 2-year funk, and I've made good decisions and bad decisions financially. I've made good and just all kinds of stuff, but just genuine, somebody you can call. They've known me for 30 years. Like, that's a long time, or maybe not that long, but about that long. 25, long time. And that's something special, man. I mean, genuine friendships is something very, very, very special. And to the point where it's a trust thing, and no pun intended, but I just called up Jake about 4 days ago because I'm transferring my personal property into trust just because just kind of financial planning. And I asked Jake if he'd be my trustee or my successor trustee to my brother, because I trust him completely, 100%. And obviously you too, Pat, both. And it's just, it's very special. It's very special to have 25 years of friendship, of genuine friendship, of someone you can call when you're down and out, someone you don't have to pretend anything. And yeah, it's a blessing.
Yeah.
I love that.
So I'm thinking back to when I first met these guys as a starter. But the thing that's interesting about Jake is when Jake went out his first summer, Jake's different. Like, Jake is like a different personality that you don't see every day in Southwestern. You did all the personality profiles. His personality profile would be an outlier, guaranteed. And the funny thing is, he was #1 in the company as a rookie, and he beat me I was a second year, and he beat me by, like, I don't know, a significant margin, 1,000 units or something like that. And it's like, this guy knows how to do stuff, and he does it a totally different way. And there's something about Jake where he just can make things happen. And so that's one thing I've always been, like, kind of perplexed. Darrell and I will get together and be like, can you believe Jake? Like, it's just like, what? But the other side of that is, really, you were talking about it when you were talking about me. The reality is, when you called me, because you were like, hey, I'm going to be in town, and I was wondering if we could get together. And I thought, what's he going to pitch me on? He's going to pitch me on something with finances and some. And
Mary Kay.
It's going to be confusing, and I'm not going to know how to do it. And he's smarter than me, and I'm probably just not going to want to do it. But okay, whatever. Jake's in town. I'm going to go see him. And then he's like, yeah, so I had this dream, and Craig Soder was there, and then this, and this. And now I'm thinking I actually need to go back to Southwestern and be a sales manager. He didn't tell you all that bit, but I was just like jealous. I was jealous of Jake. Like, in that moment, I knew I had my own thing going, but I was like, I totally can see why you would want to do that. And to have the guts, the balls to step into it and go, I'm going there. I'm going back to the scariest thing. And I'm going, and they're not going to cut me a sweet deal. They're just going to say, yeah, you can come back. We'll support you a little bit and help you because we believe in you, but you're going to have to earn every penny of it. And I don't know. I just was like, that's one of the biggest baller moves I've ever seen, ever, of anything that I know. That's
agree.
the biggest baller moves ever. So that's what I think about with Jake. When I think about with Todd, I remember Jason Grimes is the guy that called me and recruited me, and Jason was very charismatic, and he was like 6'4" and good looking, and like people liked him. You know, he had good taste in music, and you know, kind of carried a lot of swagger. And then I go to the first meeting, and then they introduced me to Todd, and all of a sudden I was like, "Who's Jason?" I was like, "This dude." He's like, I was just like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, if it's going from this to this, whatever this organization is unbelievable, because Todd has a way of you be around him for 3 minutes, and you just go, "This is the guy I want to follow. Wherever he's going, I want to follow him." And the thing is, a lot of people can give that impression for a short term, but people don't do that for years unless they've got it. And Todd, you've got it, and that's why you
Amen.
and that's why, you know, we go through all that shit during the recession, and we come out of it as friends. No matter what happened, it's like it doesn't matter. That's like a thing. That was an event that we went through together, and it was hard and it was terrible, and we're still friends, and that's the way it'll always be. And it's like there's nothing that could have happened during all that. Didn't matter how much money was involved, that could have ruined what we already knew about each other. And that's why I don't, you know, there's a lot of friendships where things go south and then you kind of get back together, but this is one where it's like things went south, but we never went apart. We just always stayed together. And I think that's pretty powerful. I mean, it just shows like a commitment to each other, because we know each other. You know, we know each other's character just around the board.
And the power of shared trauma. You know, or like we cried at a corner on a Wednesday, and so because of that, I know your character. On a real note,
the beauty of Todd,
that is what it is.
I gotta say this though. The beauty of Todd though is that, and Jake, I think you could echo this. You can follow Todd, and you know, like Todd can set a standard for you, and you can go do, and he can be like, "This is what we do, and this is what we're about." And then you can go follow him, and you go, "He's mostly doing that." But I see cracks in the system, and I see he's a human, right? Like I can go, he's not pure. He's a human, and that kind of actually builds the draw, I think, because it's like he's not going to tell me he's better than me. We're both flawed, you know, and we're both just doing this thing. And there's something about he can capture a moment that, you know. I see
you, gentlemen.
Breaking down a 35-unit package down to a Bible story book and being kind of pissed off about it. And I'm like, see, he's not pure.
Week order Bible story book.
For $6.
And I made someone smoke a cigarette.
Oh, that's the good stuff. Oh my gosh.
God created friendship. God created a thing that is friendship like this. It's amazing.
It's really so great.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, gentlemen, to me, this has been a blast. I would love to do this again sometime to just kind of shoot the shit, talk to more Southwestern stuff at some point whenever you guys would be open to it. I do have. We didn't do this segment. We've done this segment lately, so I don't even know. Should we? If we do, I have rapid fire question segments about your Southwestern experience. Are you guys open to that, or should we just do this for the story for Bisler? So you guys let me know.
Hold on.
Pat might have to go, but I don't know if you guys want to do all or none or how you do it.
I've got another 5 or 10 minutes tops, but I could.
I'm trying to.
Did the audio ever work for?
We tried. I sent it to Amy too. We couldn't get it to work. We'll have to get it to work. We'll try to get it to work. I couldn't make it work.
My family said Trader Joe's. I'm fine.
Oh, TJ's good. So we got 5 minutes. All right. So here's the thing.
If I played it here, would it be the same on speaker or no?
You could probably try it. Yeah, give it a shot. Let's see what happens.
Only reason I want to do it, it's not that I want you to hear Matthew. I just think it kind of encapsulates what all of our kids just did over the last couple of years. Again, the setting, if it works out and you can hear it, the setting is, I knew, because I knew his numbers, I knew he had a bad day. I knew he didn't sell anything. And I'm like, okay, here comes the call.
Well,
last week he wants to finish strong so bad, and he's not doing it. He's had a couple bad, and it's like, is he going to crack? Is he going to be like, this is a lot, I'm never going to do this again? You know, I just knew he was in a bad spot, sales-wise.
Actually,
I heard that.
Yeah, I got it. Let me do it for my mic because I think it might pick it up better than your earbuds, but we'll do it.
Yeah, Bluetooth.
Let's see it.
Hey, Dad. Had a great day today. Had so much more fun than I have been. Like, I just focused on that today. I just had a blast. I had a great attitude. That's why I got 16. Excuse me. Sorry. I got 16 sit downs today. Second best day ever. It was just a super fun day. I was actually working a little bit of middle upper income today, and I got so many sit downs. I was connecting with people with names and doing a great job with that. I was connecting with. I'm getting better. Like I can just feel like if I had like 2 more weeks here, I would just start killing it here. Like nobody's business. I had so many quality sets. I only got one person bought, so it was really just one ace today and a lot of face cards, and I didn't convert any of the face cards. But one ace, they had all the books already, and they got the websites. In addition, I got them to get the websites again. But it was really fun day. 16 sets, and that was awesome from the beginning to the end. I had a ton of sets at the end too, and had some really good CEA sit downs that I couldn't quite convert. They weren't gibbies, but they were like face cards, and that was the first quad CEA sit downs I had in a while, and they're really good core 4, but they were like really close to getting even just the website, so they were really close to getting some of the books, but they said they didn't have money, so I guess they did a better job. But it's just like everything is just getting so close, and I'm connecting with names with teachers and coaches, and just all that. Like one lady asked me today, she was like, "Are you like? How long have you been here? Like, how do you know so much?" I was like, "It's been here a week." And I said, "Wow, it's like I know how to figure out. I figured out how to connect with people better, with teachers and the names and all that kind of stuff, and the mascot, all that kind of stuff, and that's one thing I really learned today. I also learned some stuff about sitting down with just having an attitude of like you want to be at the peak of your self-talk, like the peak of your positivity right before you open the door. Mm. So it's like someone's like you're like building up. Oh man, I'm gonna get a great day. Oh, I'm a freaking beast, Oh man, I'm so thankful for so many things. Wow, I actually get to show these to people every day. Oh hi, how's it going? My name is Matthew. It's right. It's like the self-talk is like at the peak, right when they come in the door, and it's like all of a sudden they just see this super bright, awesome college student. It's awesome. So, anyways, sometimes I just beep to my phone. I don't know what it is. But anyways, it was awesome day. Anyways, see ya.
Dude.
So he had
that's
3
awesome
units that day. And there's also like 3 units on the week. He's sitting on like 25 after Wednesday. And I was just so excited that he was excited about getting 16 sit downs and all these almost sales. Because I would have been frustrated my first summer. I would have been mad.
Wow, that's gold. That's like it takes you back. The good old stat calls. You're like, oh, this is great. I'm glad we got to play that. That's awesome. Wow, good for you, Jake. You got a good kiddo. Matthew?
Yeah.
Good kid.
That was 4 years ago. Yeah.
Tell him we said hello. All right, folks, let's do this really quick. It's a segment we have going on. It's rapid fire questions. It'll be like 6 or 7 of them. We'll just go around and I'll just go around in order and then backwards. Cool. So first question. Out of your summers, you guys had multiple summers. What was your favorite state and or city that you guys sold in? We'll go Pat, Jake, and Todd, and then we'll go back the other way.
Oh, am I on?
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite state and town is probably Williamson, New York, where I hit Mort for the first time. I mean, come on.
That's a good town. That's good territory. Upstate New York is my favorite. Jake, what about you?
The first ones often has some special memories. So my first summer, Atlantic, Iowa, and it hit Mort week 11. It was kind of ideal.
You hit Mort as a first year?
Yeah.
Bro,
Yeah,
we got to have
11.
you back to have you a one-on-one with me. I need to hear about this summer. What? Wild.
I didn't hit Mort for the next 3 summers, but it was nice then.
Cheese and rice. Holy shit balls, man. Mort in the first year. What about you, Todd? What was your favorite state? Oh, wait, you're muted.
Yeah, you're on mute.
Todd, you're muted.
Man, you're on mute.
Oh, Upper Peninsula, Michigan. It was Jason Grimes' first summer. We were roommates. And I mean, that is just a world from the past. And it's just kids hitchhiking around. It was amazing. It was an amazing place.
I thought you were going to say Grassy Butt, Montana.
Grassy Butt, yeah.
All righty, folks. Todd, back to you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say favorite HQ.
Well, I'll just say for fun, when I went up and stayed with Pat and Colin, Pat Roach and Colin for a 2-week period, and I would sleep on the floor, and I was just up there for 2 weeks to sell, and when the alarm went off, I'd be like, "What time is it?
What time is it? What time is it? What time is it?" This is where I learned.
One more minute.
He's like, 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. I'm like, dude, you're supposed to jump up and start being positive.
Take
you're
a cold shower, dude.
You're the OG, and you're going,
Dude, watching those guys come out of the shower, like just doing the craziest things. I mean, towel racks. I don't know what.
Oh,
Where's
we
my
need an
towel?
explanation to that.
Where's my towel?
Anyway, that was a good headquarters. That was up in New York, right, Pat? I think it was.
Yeah, that was New York.
Jake, what was your favorite HQ?
Todd used to have, or my second summer, he created like Power HQ where student leaders live together, and then you have first years live together. We don't do it that way as much, but that was a blast. So me and Will Arthur and Darrell Marcus, we all lived together, and we were all like just flying. And we had people following us. The Europeans used to come over like a month before their sales school, and they would say, "Oh, who's cranking?" And then they would drive to Michigan, and because we had 3 of us that were cranking, we pretty much had people stay in our house like every day. For like, it seemed like 2/3 of the summer someone followed us, and there were people from all over the world doing that. And it was because we had these 3 student leaders in one HQ that were all cranking. So that was a lot of fun in Michigan.
Epic.
Yeah.
Pat, your favorite HQ?
Favorite HQ was probably Iowa, Shenandoah, Iowa, where Colin and I, it was a house that had a fire in it. And so the owner was like, but there's a basement apartment that's unscathed. So we stayed in the basement apartment. No one was in the upstairs of this huge, like Victorian. And we just kind of had our own space. And then every Saturday night, we'd like race back, when we got done, and we'd order a Bigfoot pizza from Pizza Hut, and we drink a 12-pack of Keystone Light and burn down while we're sitting on the back porch waiting for the guy to deliver it. It was like, those Saturday nights were the best Saturday nights of my life.
Of your entire life.
I mean, like the best. And it was, we had this routine where we were drinking our beers and we would just toss them in the yard. And then, because there was a hedge around it, so it didn't really matter. We're the only ones living there. We were like acting like we're like white trash, like just chucking these cans. And we'd go out in the morning and we have to go pick up all the cans, It was just like, I saw Colin, I'm not kidding you. I saw Colin last summer for a little get together in Kentucky. and we're just at an Airbnb and we're just having a drink or whatever. And he gets done, he chucks it in the yard like it's trash. And it was like, we were right back in Iowa. It was like the best. It was awesome.
Listen, Iowa's all trash, so wherever you threw it, it was fine. Sorry, I'm a Nebraskan. I gotta give it where I can. Oh man, guys, this is a blast. I was noticing all my other rapid fire questions. You guys kind of already answered some of these, but we're gonna wrap it up here. I've had a blast, gentlemen. Thank you so much for giving me your time. I appreciate you guys being on here for a couple hours, sharing with me on a Friday afternoon. Thank you again, Todd, Jake, and Pat, for sharing and being vulnerable about this memories of your kids selling. You guys have been a great episode. Thank you. It's really grateful for this.
I've enjoyed it too. Thank you guys. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Love
you guys.
To hang.
On that note, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. My name is Andres Gambo. This has been the Ponytails Podcast, Season 8, Episode 2. Hope you guys enjoy. Catch us up on the next one. We have some other amazing guests coming up here on Season 8, so hope you guys stay tuned. Please feel free to go follow us and subscribe on whatever thing you need to find us in. We're all over the place, so check us out. If you guys want to get a hold of Pat or Jake or Todd and find out what they're up to, there's going to be links in the bio where we can leave down below in the show notes, so you can kind of reach out to them if you want to go work in real estate or you want to see what kids are doing in Southwestern now. You can talk to Jake. Todd is doing a bunch of variety of things, so you can go catch up with him down there. If you guys have questions for us, or if you guys want to reach out, say hello, find us on Instagram. On that note, we will leave it here. Thank you so much, everyone. Peace out. Bye-bye.